Onyx Hold has been one of the better dungeons to farm experience in, at least from my experience. When I ran this dungeon, I was actually able to get about 2.5 bars experience here. So this was actually pretty quick for me at level 48, 2.5 bars in 10 minutes. That is actually fairly fast and it's enjoyable. Just for reference, Onyx Hold is right there, right next to the Onyx Watchtower waypoint, which is a stronghold, so you have to unlock that. But just for reference, Ked Bardu is right up above it. Onyx Point is a little bit below, and the dungeon is actually right there. So I am starting at level 48, a couple bars in. Let's dive into it. So the way this dungeon works is you have to slay all the enemies in the rotting penitentiary, which can take a little bit of time. That can be a little tedious because you have to get every single one to get access to the rear end. But the reason why I like this dungeon is not only does it have good packs of mobs, you can also get a title. I've also earned a title in here. I've also ran this multiple times and it's been a good experience for me. And there are also multiple shrines in this dungeon. So that not only helps our experience, but it's also a lot of fun. Speaking of shrines, there is the shrine right there. The artillery shrine is one of the best shrines ever. Really, really enjoyable. Visually it's nice, but then again, it also helps with damage, right? So one of the things we have to do here is, of course, run around, kill a bunch of stuff, and luckily for us, it comes in packs. We are Spin to Win Barbarian, of course, and we are trying to get as many packs as you can. Now, some of these mobs, you don't have to kill all the trash mobs. You can just go ahead and skip right to the elites, hop from elite to elite, with the exception of the portion where you have to kill every single mob. That does take a little bit. This whole dungeon is about 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, depending on how fast you run and if you kill everything or if you rush it. And when I ran this dungeon, I was actually able to get about 2.5 bars experience here. So this was actually pretty quick for me at level 48, 2.5 bars in 10 minutes. That is actually fairly fast and it's enjoyable. As I've mentioned before, there are a few shrines in here as well, so that helps. If not anything, visually it does help. These big guys take a little bit of time. The Wallers take a little bit of time. He is elite. He is tough to kill. So my single target damage is pretty low. With that said, it's still 10 to 12 minutes. That's not a bad run. And you can just, when you're done, you can just come back out, reset it, and repeat all over again. And speaking of resetting it, this is almost the end here. And it's kind of cool. There are lots of mobs in here. So from my experience, the drops have been okay. But this is a very accessible dungeon. Very easy to get to. Nothing fancy. Of course, we have to, after we complete that, we have to slay the 3 corpses. We have to kill the elites as well along the way. And that does take a little bit of time. But it's honestly not too bad. The whole process was fairly straightforward. Go around, kill a bunch of stuff, grab some pylons, grab some shrines, and have a good time. So this video is about 5 minutes long. The dungeon is about 10 to 12 minutes long. It'll obviously go faster if you have a friend. One of the things that slows me down on the Barbarian is, of course, the single target damage, because Lunging Strike I use only for a gap closer, and that is the only thing that I use it for. It is rank 1, and it's very, very slow. So if I'm not spinning to win, unfortunately, it's a little rough. Speaking of the titles, there we go. Slay 1,000 zombies. And I got a really nice challenge reward for that. Got a really nice title. By the way, this dungeon also drops an elixir as well of demon slaying, so that helps. I believe it was either the demon slaying or the zombie slaying. It was in the dungeon. It actually dropped 2 of them, so that actually helps. It gets a little bit more experience, a little bit more damage. And then after we slay these 3 corpses, the dungeon is over. We get to come back out, reset it. There was 2. We got 1 left. After a little bit of running around, here he is. This is the last one, and there's a shrine right on top of him, so that makes it go fairly easy. Plus, playing a Barbarian class, I was able to pop Call of the Ancients. Call of the Ancients do a ton of damage. They don't last very long, but they do a ton of damage in a very short amount of time. And just like that, the dungeon is over. Now it's just reset and repeat. Let's go ahead and take a look at the results. All right, so teleporting back to Ked Bardu, just for reference, Ked Bardu is right next to Onyx Hold. So if you have not unlocked Onyx Hold, you can just run the Stronghold. That, of course, is part of the story. So here we go. Just for reference, on the left is what I started with, and on the right is what we ended up with. Not bad for 10 minutes of work.